right, and welcome to another episode of Butler's Babble, where we aim to empower, motivate, and inspire individuals to live the best life possible they can. And tonight, like I say, every night, we have an amazing guest for you today. You're going to learn a lot from this gentleman. But before we do that, little housekeeping, remember, we got the new website up now, butlersbabble.com. You can check any testimonials on there. We have all our information on Butler's Babble there. And you can also, if you want to be a guest or you know of somebody that would be a great guest, there's a form there you can click on to fill out. And if you just want to send me a message, and there's all our past issues you can get to right from there. So make sure you check it out. We're also on YouTube, Spotify, and all those other great spaces. But let's get to today's show. Today, we have a great gentleman, Mr. Dr. Rob Kelly, coming to us all the way from San Antonio, Texas. He's known as the recovery expert, and you'll find out why as you listen to his story. But he did grow up in Manchester, England. He's going to tell us all about his childhood and how he grew up. And we'll also talk about a book that he wrote. So let's bring him on, Mr. Dr. Rob Kelly. Thanks for coming on the show today.
Thank you, man. Great to be here. Hey, guys, it's going to be a good one.
It is going to be a good one. So why don't we get people to know you a little bit? Why don't you tell us a little bit about Rob growing up in Manchester, England there?
So I was growing up on the projects, lower income family. No money, no trips, no school trips, couldn't afford that. 2 pairs of shoes a year. Very rough area. So I learned to fight at an early age. My family was mainly musicians. So at the age of 9, I'm on stage playing professionally. My main guitar, I can play anything, but my main instrument is bass guitar. So there I was, 9 years old, playing my auntie and uncle. And so I took my first drink. I was nervous, and my uncle gave me a little beer. I drank it. The whole world just lit up for me. So mostly, college and music. So when I was off from college, I'd go gigging and vice versa. I always wanted to be a pro musician, to get away from the projects and make something of myself, because most of the guys I hung around with back then are dead now from heroin overdose, and drugs really hit around in the mid 80s, really hit the council estates in England. So I was lucky enough to get out. But yeah, I mean, I've got one sister, one brother, both younger. My sister's actually here in San Antonio because I opened a British restaurant next door to my office. Is called the Old English Tea Shop. So she actually runs that, which is awesome. So yeah, everything was good home. I was destined to repeat the cycle of everybody else in the family, which was get married, have some children, get a job, look forward to a weekend, maybe 1 week a year holiday to the local beach or something. But all the time, I just wanted to be out of that. I drove a taxi for a bit. My dad used to have a taxi. And I remember driving it in between college and picking these guys up at a hotel, like a posh hotel. They'd come out with the briefcase back in the day, and the umbrella, and they get in a car. I always wanted to be one of those guys that would do that.
Yeah.
And that was my dream. If I could just get a job where they put me in a hotel where I could come out and get into a taxi going to the airport. It was the weirdest thing, but it's stuck in my mind. And the rest is horrible. My growing up and my marriage and children. I mean, alcohol took everything off me completely.
Yeah, and we'll get to that, of course. And I know what it's like when you feel that ambition of wanting to be like the hotel. I grew up as a musician myself, going to high school. I was a drummer growing up. I played in everything from concert bands in school. I played in my hometown, Brampton. I was the Brampton Symphony Orchestra's percussionist at one point, and I was only like high school at the time. And then I got into rock bands. Of course, in the 80s, I had the long hair in high school, and in the 80s hair bands and things like that. So I knew I was the same way as you. I wanted to go and be a professional musician and travel the world, and the girls and the cars and all the hotels. I know what you mean. So
it was awesome.
It was. It's something to live with. So, so we get into. So we find out you're more into music now. Did you take the music any further than just playing locally, or?
So I have guys what's called the addictive personality and the alcoholic brain, which basically means I don't do anything by half measures. So I started my own band. We're earning more money at night time, 3 nights a week, than I was, when I started work, than I was when I was working. So yeah, I become very proficient in bass playing And it's funny because we used to every Friday, Saturday night we'd gig. So you know what it's like. You put like $800 of equipment into a $400 car to travel 3 hours to get $50 pay. That's just the way musicians are. You know, we love it for what it is. And then one day, a friend of mine said, "Hey," I knew he was in a studio. I knew he played in a recording studio, and he said, "Rob, can you just cover me for like one night?" I said, "Yeah. What is it?" He said, "It's called being a session musician. You play tracks. When once bands get record deals, the first year they get no pay, all expenses are paid. But after the first year, they get their first big paycheck. Well, there has been known in the past for some musicians to get wasted and end up on an island somewhere and not make the recording of their second album. So session musicians would go in and lay the bass track. You didn't really know what the song was. So I said, well, that sounds easy. So off I went, sat down, first piece of music, ba ba ba, second, ba 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 ba, third, ba ba ba, straight through, three pieces of music. I bet it was 12 minutes, John. And he gave me something like $400 or 400. And I'm like, whoa, you've paid me too much. No, it's a standard. Because you did it so quick, we don't need you for 4 or 5 hours. You're out of here. And I thought to myself, I will never gig again. I want to be a session musician. So I started at Strawberry Studios, which is 10cc studio. And then I finally ended up at Abbey Road. So I've actually played tracks on Queen, Bowie, all them guys back in the day I did tracks for. So yeah, the Beatles made Abbey Road famous. But I was too wasted at the time, John, to appreciate it. And I was just, I got fired from that place for being... So listen to this, guys. A musician, I got fired for being drunk every night. Shut up.
It's almost like a contradiction in terms when you think about it.
I thought it was a prerequisite to be drunk every night. But yeah, so
no, exactly. So you're talking about that. So why don't we go back into that? So that whole alcohol stuff, that all started very early in age too.
Yeah, first drink at 9. Drinking through school, weekends when I played in a band, Friday, Saturday, Sunday night. And then gradually it took over. At college was my drinking days. And then as I started work and I started my own business, which did very well. I was drinking every day. And then I was starting at 4:30 in the morning. Before I knew what day it was, I got married, had 2 beautiful little girls. And I was drinking 24/7. I never had a hangover because I wasn't sober. I never fell asleep. I crossed out, I passed out, and I came to the next morning. I mean, it was just horrendous. Some of the stuff that happened in that house was horrendous. But yeah, that was kind of... it took me a long time to talk about them days.
Yeah. And you say you started around 8 or 9. So you're actually just in elementary school when you're drinking.
Yes.
So did any of the teachers, anybody know? Because I'm sure, did they not smell it on you, or any of the students not know that this is going on, and other parents?
Well, during the week, I never drank. It was just Friday, Saturday, Sunday when you're out playing in the band. So we had a van and we had a driver. So yeah, he wasn't drunk. It was just like we had a few drinks and it was awesome. And it was awesome for a long time, to be honest. But yeah, I mean, it didn't take off to daily drinking until maybe I was in college or something.
Okay.
It was that weekend. So there are different types of drinking sprees before you actually cross over to alcoholism. So that's where I was. Nobody really knew.
And I'm thinking at 8, 9 years old, I know with my daughters, I used to joke with them if I was sitting there having a beer and I'm like, here, you want some? And they're like, no. And even every now and then they do say, okay, I'll try it. And you're like, okay, you're safe at home. I'm just going to let you try because they're not going to like it.
No.
And they drink and they're like, oh, that's terrible. How can you drink this? And then they never go back again. Yeah. But you actually liked it.
Yeah. So I did some research on that when I was in college, and all my friends I spoke to was like, where did you drink? Oh, I took some of my dad's beer at 9, 10, 11, 12. What was it like? Horrible. I spat it out. It was horrible. Well, not with me, because as soon as I drank it, the confidence was oozing off me. And all of a sudden I was this guy. And we traced some, like, I don't know, 200 alcoholics over the years. And they all said the same. When I took that first alcohol, everything changed. I felt 100% better. I felt confident. So it kind of defined at an early age, I think, no research on this, guys, that the guys that love it, are in for the long haul, so to speak. The guys that spit it out, which is normal, which led us into research on fetus level alcoholism gene, uh, which we found. So alcoholics are born and drug addicts are made. So yeah, it's when you look back at the research we've done, it's crazy, crazy.
Mhm. Oh, I can just imagine because I know myself, even when I was at a young age, my dad was a superintendent for an apartment, and he had a neighbor that we'd go up to their unit and hang out with, and he had a little tobacco pipe. And I went to grab it when apparently I was just like a baby at the time. And they're like, yeah, go for it. And I did it and I hacked to death. And they're like, see, you'll never do that again. So it just how, like you say, it's not what we think as the norm. As a kid tries it and they can't stand the taste of it and they don't want to do it anymore. Whereas you actually, it was like euphoria for you. So you're doing that, you're doing gigs, you're getting into teenage years, high school. Now, does it get more exploded while you're in high school before you go to college, or is it still
No,
just an evening or a weekend and evening type thing?
yeah, it was kind of just weekends. Every time I played in a band, we had drinks. If I didn't play in a band weekend, which was rare, I didn't go looking for alcohol. That's for sure. So it was kind of something that was at the weekend. It was fun. It was good. So yeah, it took a long time before it actually became daily drinking. But when I was in college, I met other people that could drink like me, which is
Mm,
brilliant. You know, you drink go in the afternoon, you keep drinking into the night, and then all of a sudden, about 8 or 9 o'clock at night, they all of them got to go home now and study. I've got an exam tomorrow. I'm like, guys, no, 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 do what I do. Stay till 12 o'clock. Go home, bang some cocaine. Read as much as you can, as quick as you can, and go in for your test, and you'll get good results. So they started to drift away from my drink, and I was set alone as Rob liked to drink, is what they used to say. you know. That's what I say about grandfathers trying to trace alcoholism back in the family because you can always trace it. And I always get off the older people like, well, my grandfather liked to drink. Turns out he was a chronic alcoholic, but that's what
mm.
they said in those days. They didn't really know about alcoholism. So, he drank every night. God bless him until he passed away.
And did you ever find that during your high school or your college years where you really got really bad, were you more of just an easygoing guy drinker, or were you like a violent drinker? Or were you type? I had a guest on my show here way back when we first started where he would actually get to the point where he was robbing cars or houses just to feed his fix basically for alcohol. Like, were you ever in that kind of a state, or you just because of the gigging you were getting good money, you always had the money, you just went and got it, or were you a violent drunk or?
I always got the money because of gigging or working the doors or stuff like that, mainly gigging. But I was taking steroids at 15 years old to become a professional bodybuilder.
Okay.
I won lots of titles. You can Google it, Mr. Manchester, Mr. Britain, and all that stuff. Uh, it was then I turned into a violent alcoholic. So once I drank, there was no control over my temper.
Mhm.
Like if everyone around me was nice, I would never cause trouble. But it's one spark of trouble, and I'd be in aggressively. That goes for steroids, alcohol, and then my upbringing as a council estate kid. He's like, you strike first, and you ask questions like whatever the situation is. So once you get into body language, because I worked the door for a bit, my second PhD is behavioral science, and I was intrigued how I learned to watch the body, and then you just knew when somebody was going to throw a punch. They'd either look away or they step back in distance, and bang, I'd be in straight away. So very violent, yeah. Punched my wife several times. Oh, just stabbed my wife 3 times one night because she won't let me finish my bottle of vodka. So there's definitely a violent side to me when I was drinking, which I
Okay.
don't miss.
And was it just drinking, or did you get into any of the harder drugs too? Or
When I was at Abbey Road, I got into cocaine just to stay awake, for a night session. So most of the famous musicians,
Mhm.
even though it's cheaper at night, will do night recordings because there's less people around to get in and out real easy. So yeah, I got into that. But I'm today, I mean, if I touch a bit of alcohol now, I'll be out for the year and looking to get back. Drugs, no. I give me morphine for my neck injury, and I have no problems with drugs. It's just alcohol with me.
Okay. So going into college, you were going in, I guess, for your PhD at the time. This is what, Oxford College, I believe.
I went to Manchester first of all,
Okay.
and I took a master's at Manchester, and I went to a PhD at Oxford. And I took my second PhD about 10 years ago. But yeah,
And did you have any trouble with your schooling at all while drinking all the time? Because you were saying like you were drinking day and night, or basically you're probably going to school drunk, but because you're so immune to it almost, people can't tell.
But you have to remember two things. First of all, I was the richest kid in our school because we were playing 3 or 4 times a week. I I honestly say to people, I'm not proud of it, but I was truthful. I paid a lot of people to do a lot of my work and sit exams. I mean, I did papers for me. I mean, I, to be honest, left on my own, I don't think I would have got through college.
Mhm.
I wasn't clever. I got there by a freak accident. Freemasons. I was in a Freemasons at an early age because they needed an organist, and I can play organ. It was just crazy. But yeah, so when you look back, it's every time I do a podcast, it takes me back and I smile about some stuff, and I go, "Oh, how did you get away with that with other stuff?" But yeah, it was what I called manageable. I mean, when it come out of control is I left college and went into the police force because most of the people in my lodge were police officers, high-ranking police officers. So that's when it really took off.
Okay. And how long were you a police officer for?
About 18, 14, 16 months. They fired me
Okay.
for being drunk while on duty.
That's what I was trying to think of
Yeah,
because it's hard to have a profession like that if you're going to be on alcohol all the time.
yeah, they found out pretty quick. I got a couple of warnings, and you know, sergeant called me in. He asked me for my badge, and he says, "Got to let you go. Got to fire you." And he said, "Got to fire you, Kelly." I'm like, "What for? What have I done wrong? You're an alcoholic." Well, I was pissed with that. He called me. I'm not an alcoholic. I've seen alcoholics sat on the corner with strings around the waistcoats around a fire singing six-part harmony. They're the alcoholics, not me. I'm not an alcoholic. All the way home, he won't let me drive. All the way home, I was pissed off with him. But he
Mhm.
was right. It was a
Yeah,
danger.
looking back, it was probably the best decision
Yeah.
for both of you, for the force and
Yeah.
for look what you're doing now. So it was probably the best decision. So you go through college. Is that where you met your wife? Was during your college years, or did you meet before college? Or
No, it was after that. So it was after that, the policeman, I got fired, and then I started I'm working for, so in the ads back in Manchester, it's called Manchester Evening News, there was little bit ads that weren't, commission only kind of stuff. So I had to try and work, so I went for the commission only stuff. And then I'm a smart guy. Alcoholics and addicts who recover are all geniuses. And after about 6, 7 weeks of being there, I thought I can do this. What it was building, it was finding areas and building mass for the Army and Navy, which obviously later become the telecommunications industry. So within 6 or 7 weeks of being there, I started my own company doing that. So and we were very successful. But once again, the alcohol pulled all that down on my head again. And that's what happens with alcoholics. You build something up and you smash it down. You build up and you smash it down until you get well. You do that for the rest of your life.
and so you met your wife while you were doing that type of work.
Yeah, I met my wife. I was doing the door one night in just outside Manchester, and I met her while I was working the door. That's where I met her.
Okay.
And then we were together for a quit, and then went down to London for a bit. I ran a pub. A pub. Get that? I just thought about how crazy. So he ran a pub for a few months for a friend of mine, and then we came back, and that's when I started Medlock Communications. But yeah, there was signs there in the early days, John, that it wasn't going to end well with my drink. And every single bad thing that's happened in my life, there was always alcohol behind it, always.
Mhm. And I hear that story all the time from people. It's like it basically runs their life, basically.
100%.
Yeah.
And that's what I can't understand. Why can't I stop drinking? Why can't I stop drinking because of my children, because of my job, It's like when I left school, I became homeless after that. But when I come off the streets, I dedicated my life to finding out why. Why is this happening to me? And people have no cure or no idea how to treat it apart from go to an AA meeting and just pull yourself together and don't drink because of your kids. And then you, John, there was something else. I knew the brain was a billion times more powerful than anybody ever thought. I studied Carl Jung in Collington. The guy was onto something as well back then. So yeah.
And so homeless. Did you? If I misunderstood or something, was that before you were with your wife or after you were with your wife?
So I was with my wife. We had the first child, and about a year later, I had the second child. 1, 2 years later. And that is where it went wrong.
Okay.
It seemed that alcoholism was with me, but I was in denial.
Okay.
So I did some horrific things in the house. At the end of the day, I get home one night. So I stabbed her 3 times, like I told you. I fled to Spain, and I stayed in Spain for a few months until charges were dropped. I came back home. Our daughters were about 1 and 3, 2 and 4, and she was waiting for me at the door because they cancelled all my credit cards, and my dad booked a flight to get me home, and she left. And I was so pissed. I was like 3 days sober by now. And I got into my attorney, get to court the next morning, get whatever license you need or order, but get my kids back tomorrow. And next morning came around with my 2 little girls. Now this is day 4 being sober. Now I'm responsible father. Now things have changed. I remember taking him off, giving him a check for something and thinking, yeah, bitch. Oh, sorry. You don't even know who I am. You know, you can't mess with me when it comes to my kids. Put me in front of the TV in the living room. Went through to the kitchen, and the thought crossed my mind, wouldn't it be great to have just 1 beer to celebrate the kids coming back? 2 days later, the police kicked the door down. They burst into the house. Apparently I've been out of it for 2 days. Children not been fed for 2 days. No diapers changed for 2 days. And they served me with unfit father papers. So alcoholics will know this. When he woke me up, the feeling of guilt, remorse, and shame, the sickness of what I just did. I stumbled to the door, and the eldest one, Charlie, she was holding on to Mummy's hand. And as he walked down the path, he said 3 things to me. He said, Daddy, Daddy, please don't go. Further down the path, he turned on again, Daddy, Daddy, please get better. And as she got to the gate, they opened the gate, and she turned around one more time and said, Daddy, Daddy, please stop drinking. And I couldn't do it, John. And a week's, I don't know how long after that, I was homeless. And I never saw my wife ever again, and I never saw my children ever again until about 4 years ago, after 30 years. Yeah.
30. I was just going to say, how long was that when that all happened? So going back to talking about stabbing your wife, if you don't mind going back to that, how did that all come about that you ended up stabbing your wife?
So I'm obviously in an alcohol crazed binging for weeks and weeks and weeks and weeks. I remember vividly waking up 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning, because this is what alcoholics do. You wake up or you come around, and all of a sudden, alcohol, where's alcohol? I need alcohol, I need alcohol. I'm sweating, my head's banging. So I came down the stairs quietly, and I went into the kitchen, and there were certain places I kept alcohol. And I'm praying, please, 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 let there be alcohol there. And he opened one of the drawers and cupboards, and there was the bottle of alcohol. So it's like winning the lottery for alcoholics. So I got it down. It's like 3/4 full, big handle bottle. I put it on the side, and I turn around to get a crystal glass. And I always go back to this, the state I was in, the state of mind I was in. And yet I turn around to get an expensive crystal glass to pour the vodka in because, hey, I'm not an alcoholic. That's why I went back and pulled some childhood trauma and found out. But by the time I turned around, my wife had snatched a bottle of vodka off the counter, and she said, I think you've had enough. So what I should have said is, thank you, Mrs. Kelly, and gone to bed. But that's when I stabbed her 3 times and called a taxi first, which was around the corner, called the ambulance and the police, waited until I could hear the sirens, popped into a cab, and away to Spain.
Wow. That just shows you how thick of a hold alcohol can have on people.
And that is why I wouldn't let it go, the research. They told me, they laughed at me, you know, even when I came over here 20 years ago, they laughed, they took my license off me to practice. He said it was crazy and hurting people. But I knew, John, I knew it wasn't a case of just put the drink down or, you know, just stop drinking. It wasn't a case of that, because it took over my whole being. I was absolutely insane.
Yeah. And I remember reading, I think in your bio, or maybe I heard it on another podcast, I can't remember which one I did, something about you waiting at a liquor store before it even opened with the shakes and everything. Now, was this when you were homeless or?
Yeah. So again, looking back, that was my first indicator that, wow, because guys, I was outside the liquor store, I got a vest on, I got a pair of shorts and flip-flops, It's snowing and I'm sweating profusely. I've got a banging headache. I can't hold a conversation. I was shaking, and this guy came. He knows me, the fantastic Pakistani guy. He lets me in the store. He's not supposed to have alcohol until 10 a.m. It's 5:30 in the morning. God bless that guy. And for whatever reason, today, I walked in and put it down, and he put the bottle of vodka down, and this is what happened. Oh, thank you, man, for letting me in. You are awesome. Headaches went immediately, shakes, sweating, everything, mood changed. Instantly, it was in a great mood. And it was like a slow motion thing, John. I was looking at the bottle. I looked back at the shopkeeper, back at the bottle. I went, holy shit, it's not the alcohol. Mm-hmm. And that's where all my research come is alcohol has 1% to do with alcoholism. Mm-hmm. And everyone disagreed with me. But I knew I was onto something. I just
you hadn't even taken a sip yet.
Not taking the cap off the bottle was still screwed. Not taking it off, just holding the outside of the bottle. Everything went. It was unbelievable. That was calm.
It shows that it's all a mindset.
Yeah. Whole mindset change. All of a sudden I'm happy-go-lucky, and even the shakes stopped. Everything just went. And that's when I think it was a few weeks later, and I kept telling this story. I cloned the phrase. I didn't have a drinking problem. I had a thinking problem, because that's what it is. It's a brain disease for which there is no cure. But there's no cure for food poisoning or the common cold. But we can certainly keep it at bay.
Mm-hmm. No, and it does. It puts a whole perspective on, like, growing up, especially with us. Like, I'm 53 right now. I grew up in the 70s and 80s and going through high school and junior high in the 80s and stuff and starting my life in my 20s and my 90s, it was always, mental health was always a stigma. You don't talk about it. If you talk about it, then you're crazy. They put you in a hospital or something. So you kept it to yourself. And it shows that, like, people, like you said, homeless, maybe they're drunks, maybe they drink a lot. Oh, he's just, stay away. Don't listen to him. He's just a crazy drunk. But they don't understand it's actually a disease that, like you said, uncontrollable disease that's uncurable, really. And I know alcoholics that, they've been dry for 30, 40 years. But to them, they're not cured, because all it takes is maybe one more sip and then they're back on it again. So, like you said, it is a mindset.
And there's science behind all of that. We did some heavy research around that is a disease, number one, and two, is a choice. So that was really interesting work that we did and proved my point exactly.
And it maybe in some ways it's both. It's a choice, but it's also, like you said, because there are some people that do it as a choice just to be cool, just to be with the friends and that. But like you said, they might not become alcoholic. They could, but it doesn't mean they will. Whereas it was already instilled in your brain right from an early age.
Yeah, 100%. So you can't drink yourself into becoming an alcoholic. It doesn't work that way. But what you do is you go through these stages where you do have a choice. They call it, early drinking, and then middle drinking, and heavy drinking, and then alcoholism. But if you're the three without being an alcoholic, which is looking back on your family to 3 generations and certain questions we ask, you're never going to become an alcoholic, but you are going to abuse alcohol. But so when people abuse alcohol, like you say to me, like, oh, Johnny around the corner, he drinks 2 bottles of vodka a day, he's an alcoholic. That's not necessarily true. Alcoholism is the only self-diagnosed illness in the world. 10 warnings from a doctor, 10 detox. It does not make you an alcoholic. What makes you an alcoholic is, again, it's hereditary. It might skip a few generations, but it's there. And vast research around this. But if you are an alcoholic and nobody tells you your information or anything, my family didn't know about alcoholism. I don't think anybody did back in them days. I'm 65 this year, so it was some time ago. So, yeah, I think if we know at an early stage or educate at an early stage, like my daughters now, are very wary of drinking. They drink, but they never get drunk because of what I went through. So you can't tell which generation it hits. Like my brother and sister were fine. But my dad was fine, but his brother was a staunch alcoholic that died of liver disease. Oh, just terrible. So, yeah, I think people ask me, especially parents, when should I get involved with telling my children about alcoholism and drug addiction in their family? And I say, 5 or 6 years old. They go, what? Yeah, you're going to start talking. Everyone's embarrassed about it. I work with movie stars, rock stars, all them guys today. And not one person has ever said, I'll come out and talk about it.
Mhm.
Not one person. It's still a stigma. It's still, just still something you can't own yourself because people treat you different.
Yeah. And I know, like, I like to have like a glass of wine. I like to have maybe a glass of whiskey or beer, but I'm the type that I'll have one or two and I'm done for the night or something. Or, um, like even right now, I don't have any at the house right now because we ran out the other day, but I'm fine. When I get a chance to go and grab some more, I'll grab some more, but I'm not in a hurry to go get it. Like, it's just, for me, it's a choice. Like you said, it's not in me. And my dad was not alcoholic. He didn't like alcohol that much. Um, whereas my dad was a heavy smoker, like cigarettes wise. And he got to the point where he hacked himself to death. He ended up passing away from pneumonia, which they believe was caused from the smoking. And but my brothers and I never smoked. I maybe had a puff of a cigarette when I was a kid. I coughed and then that was it. So sometimes I find, because of what your parents do, it keeps you from doing it yourself because you don't want to be like that, if that
Yeah,
makes sense.
of course. Especially again, if you talk about it to your children, it's like there's more chance of them not doing it than there is because it's all about the people we hang around and experimenting and stuff like that. We did a lot of research on childhood behavior and how we are influenced by the 10 people around us or 5 people around us. So we did a lot of testing on that, and the results were just crazy.
Mhm.
We fall by looking to the good crowd or the bad crowd. And the saying somebody came up with is if you hang around 9 depressed people, you're going to become the 10th. And that's the
Mhm.
mirroring part of the brain. We pick up on what people say and do around us, uh, whether we like it or not.
Yeah.
So I remember my professor sending me to Chester Zoo for a year because I'd talk about this alcoholism. I talk about the brain. I talk about the behavior, the mimicking of, and I watched the apes and primates they were only open for about 9 months, but it was a year all in all. And it was fascinating what I learned from that. So
Mhm.
I think I've taken it to the level that nobody has taken it to, the research, because I lost so much and I was angry and I was just like, you don't understand what I'm getting at here. And as I came over to America, like I say, they stripped me of my psychology license. It was 3 months to get it back. And then they were just like, we got to watch you. I was called in several times a year. I believe you told a patient this. I believe you shadowed a patient. And it's just like, in the end, I just walked away from everything about 12 years ago. I'm like, screw this. I'm not being able to scrutinize with what I'm doing because my work's different to anybody else's. And I've psychologically fought people. I've been disgraced. I've been shamed on social media over the years about, you don't know what he's talking about. He never went to college. He's not from England. He's too dumb. He's never been an alcoholic. It's anything to try and discredit me. It's crazy. It still happens today. But when we started working with people and they were getting well, then my name got out into the Hollywoods of this world. And you start working with these big players, people start taking notice of you.
Yeah.
They really do.
It is
Which is
amazing how many people will attack you from behind a computer screen when they're
oh,
not face to face with you.
but I own a restaurant, so I have 4 businesses. 2 nights ago, John, or 2 nights ago, I posted something on a Facebook restaurant site in San Antonio, and this guy slammed me. Literally, who do you think you are? Da, 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 da. I don't believe you. I would never eat English food and all this stuff, man. And I wanted to find out where he lived, go down and burn his house down. But they were the old days. So I didn't say anything. I just blocked him. This morning, I swear, so I told my wife, he applied for a freaking job at the restaurant.
Yeah.
It's like they just do it because they've got nothing else better to do. It doesn't mean anything to them. But for years and years, it affected me.
Yeah.
My staff would say, you see what this guy said about you? And I got up one morning, I go, this, I'm not doing this anymore.
Yeah.
So all my staff, do not send me anything that anybody writes because they're Mr. Nobodies. And as I went through my life, I realized that anybody who's doing as good as you or better will never criticize what you're doing.
Yeah.
They will only lift you higher. And then you got the guys that'll never be anybody and they're jealous of you. And the things that always makes me smile, John, is everybody's jealous about what I have, but nobody's jealous of how I got here. They miss that part out. They miss the crying, they miss the beating, they miss the struggling, they miss the homelessness, they miss the, being stripped of your children for all that time psychologically damages you permanently in the brain. We've researched this as well. So go through all that, guys, and end up where I am now. You deserve it. But don't try and judge me just because I drive a fancy car and live in a big house and stuff. They don't know. So they see all this happening. This has been happening for about 9 years now. We've been in San Antonio. Is I'm comfortable now where I can afford the nice things. I'm 65, for God's sake. At 64, I bought the car of my dreams, which is the new Bentley Speed. But they look at that and they go, look it in. But what they don't know is how much we do for charity, how much money we give away each year.
Yep.
How we have a foundation that helps people and provides people, how 25% some months is pro bono.
Yep.
Like we never turn anybody away if we can, unless we're full. They don't say all that. They just did. Nobody knows me. I don't have any friends. I have acquaintances. Nobody knows me, And I always say to them, if you've got a problem with me on social media, text me. They go, well, I've got your phone number. Well, you have no right to comment who I am then because you don't know me.
Yep.
So,
it's very true. And it's that whole saying of you've never walked in that person's shoes, so you shouldn't be complaining and that. So if you don't mind us going back a little bit to the homeless part, how long were you homeless for?
About 14 months.
Okay, so well over a year. And that was in Manchester or?
Yeah, Manchester. There's a place in Manchester right in the middle called Piccadilly Gardens. It's where all the drunks hang out and sleep there. So I had a bench for a year. That was my dining room, my restroom, my bed for a year. And died twice on the streets. Then pigs brought back to life. I hated them men for years after, John. Brought it back to life, 2 paramedics. It was rough. I remember waking up one morning on my bench and looking at the guy next door on his bench, and he'd been stabbed to death for his sneakers. They stole his sneakers. So it was fighting every day. I don't mean arguing, like it's fist fighting every day to stay on top and, stay alive. Can't let anybody take advantage of you. Well, I come from the projects. I can fight anybody, So after a few months, I don't know if this is the first time I've said this, because it's just coming back to me now. I got quite comfortable on the streets because everyone started to know who I was and nobody would mess with me. And if I went unconscious and there was money or bottle, nobody would touch that because I would fucking find out who it was and destroy them, and the alcohol made it worse. So, but I had to go through that. I'm 100% confident that I had to go through that. I call it my semester at Harvard University because the stuff I learned from the homelessness is just, you can't teach this at school. It's literally my worst times turned into my good times to help other people go through what they're going through.
Definitely. It's easier for them to listen to somebody that's been there and done that than somebody who just went and got a degree and saying this is what you should do, and that because they've never been there or experienced it.
And I think alcoholism is and drug addiction is the only illnesses you can do that with. Like you don't have to have a heart attack to be a heart doctor, but with alcohol, it's different, man. Yeah. So it was an experiment I did years ago, finding a therapist. Is I always talk about going and see a therapist and him saying, well, I'm not an alcoholic, but I've got like 5 degrees here. I'm an expert in it. And then when I explained, like if you had a bottle of vodka behind your back and wouldn't give it to me, what do you think I would do as an alcoholic who wanted to drink? And they would all say, well, you'd argue with me, but I wouldn't give it to you. So now I'd stab you repeatedly in the face until you were dead. Then I'd grab the bottle. Well, 9 out of 10 people are freaked out about that. And every other alcoholic that hears that are like, oh, yeah. And the therapist we finally met was like, yeah, I'll stab you first. Don't worry about that.
They've been there. They know.
Yeah, you have to have that experience.
Yeah. Do you mind if I ask, how old were you roughly when you were homeless for those 14 months?
I think it was around, 26, 27, 28, around that period, I think.
Yeah. Like, and and you were saying you're even drinking there, like the alcohol, how were you getting the alcohol? Just stealing it, taking it? Did you have some money that you just couldn't afford a place to live, but you did have money that you could go do stuff or?
No, I used to beat people up coming out of nightclubs when they were drunk. especially guys on their own walking to the car or something. I would drop them and steal the wallet, and by side from that, I just walk into a liquor store, grab the one, walk out. I remember there was one place there was a security guard, just an average looking guy, probably on basic pay, probably got a wife and his kids, just doing his best. I grabbed 2 bottles of vodka and walked to the door, and I was looking to him straight in his eye. One of them was for his face, if he dare stop me, and the other one's for me. But I looked at his face, he knew, and I don't know how he knew, John, but he stepped aside and he never said a thing. And that's what I used to do. I was despicable back in the day. I was very violent, as long as I got alcohol, I'm good. But if I don't get it, I put a shopping cart through a freaking liquor store window once. I had nowhere to sleep that night, so I busted it open. Alarms were going off. I got in, got a bottle of vodka, drank it down as quick as I could, and waited for the police. Now, the embarrassing part was I used to be a police officer. So, come on, Rob, not again. What is wrong with you, Rob?
Yeah.
My friends would take me back to the station, and I got 3 DUIs in one day.
Mm-hmm.
How'd you get 3 DWIs in one day? I got arrested the first one, took me in. Sergeant, I know, go on, Rob, but don't drive. Went back to the car, drove, pulled me over again. Got back, kept me in for a bit longer, took my keys off me, got back to the car, somehow got in it and drove it again. They called me again.
Mm-hmm.
It's like I was just insane.
And so sometimes that was just your way of getting a place to sleep for the night, whether it's a drunk tank in the police station or somewhere, at least somewhere warm, and maybe get a meal or something, because they'll probably give you a little breakfast or something.
Yeah, well, back in England, it's different here. You don't get thrown into the drunk tank. You get in a nice cell, where restrooms are on the outside. If you want to go, they're feeding you the coffee in and yes sir, no sir to you. And, you're kind of just trying to come around. And, at one morning I came around and he opened the door and, Robbie, okay now? Oh, God, I feel a bit rough, man. Well, serve you right, okay? You're obviously past you're under the limit. Everything's got to go home. I said, okay, no problems. I walked round to like a HEB, a local supermarket, walked in, grabbed a bottle of vodka, drank it down while they called the police, and I was back in custody within 2 hours.
Yeah.
It was crazy.
It's like basically the police station was becoming an alcoholic's hotel room.
Yes. And a very nice one as well. It's half the time with me, John. They wouldn't even close, they wouldn't even lock the jail. So it's literally their bars. It's not like, over its walls. Yeah. I think so. No, go on, get in there or sleep it off, and he'd slam the thing in disgust.
And I shouldn't be laughing, but just the way when you think about it, it just sometimes you just have to laugh.
Yeah.
So how, after the 14 months, how did you get out of that situation?
So I'm on the streets one night. I've walked to a back end of Manchester. There's only offices and factories. It's early hours in the morning, 2, 3, 4 o'clock, I guess. It was pouring down with rain. I'd attempted suicide 7 times, 2 occasions I was kind of successful. And for whatever reason, I dropped down to my hands and knees and I started to sob like a baby. I was remember the rain coming down, hitting me on there, and I was kind of bent over with my knees on the floor and my arms. And I'm sobbing and sobbing. I remember the rain hitting me on the head, coming round to my eyes, mixing with my tears and hitting the cobblestones, turning purple. It was like it was yesterday, that vision. And I was an atheist because everything had happened to me. My priest molested me. I wasn't into God. But I remember this morning, I looked up to the sky in the rain and I just screamed out, I think, if there's a God up there, I can't do this on my own anymore. That's all I said. Next thing I knew, this guy went around the corner in the middle of nowhere, John. He'd missed his last Bible study bus. So he'd finished at 11. His bus was 11:30. He missed that. He was walking for an hour and something home. He took a shortcut through the back end of Manchester that he'd never taken before. And he comes upon me. And he said, you need help? And I'm sobbing. Yeah. He takes me back to his house. And I bathed for the first time. Didn't have showers back in the day. I bathed for the first time. Shaved, stuff like that. He got me some clothes that fit me and a hot meal. And he said to me, hey, Rob, here's the deal. I'm in recovery. I suffer from alcoholism as well. You can stay here for as long as you want, but you've got to come to these meetings with me. And I says, I don't like AA meetings. It's full of crap. It's all the same war stories. And he said, Rob, you've got to come. I can't have you drinking in the house, which is fair enough. So I'm like, this place is nice. So I'm going to go to this meeting with him. So we went down there, sat in this room. We sit in a circle back in the UK. Sure enough, the war story started. My name's John. I'm miserable today. I've got 27 years. And I'm like, I'm just about to get up and do something because I can't listen to these guys anymore. And this guy said clearly as a bell, my name's John and I'm a recovered alcoholic. And I looked down to Derek and said, what did you say? And everyone's going, shh. What did he say? Recovered? Shh. He was trying to shush me. Derek said, yeah, he said recovered. And this guy talked out from the book, the big book of AA. And everything he said, people were like, there's no way. And he'd say a page in a line and freaking hell, John, there it was. The line that he said about fully recovering and all the, I was like, oh my God. So after the meeting, I'm nervous, man. It's probably 20 feet. It felt like a freaking ocean to me walking across there, asking for help. And I walked across. I said, hey, John, my name's Rob. Would you sponsor me? And he said, no. And just before the ground opened up and swallowed me, because that's how I felt, he said, I'll be your spiritual advisor for 12 weeks. There's my address. Bring a dictionary and a big book. Bring the Bible. Something like that. And the big book. So that's what I did every Wednesday evening. I left Derek's at 6. I got there for 7. I left at 8. I got back for 9. Now, there was some rules around that. When I got there, he lived on the 2nd floor, I think. I wasn't to go up at 1:45 or 10 till or 5 to 7. I had to wait till 2 minutes to or ish, walk up, and at 7 o'clock exact to knock on his door. I said, no problem. And when I was there doing the stuff with him, at 1 minute to 8, despite mid-conversation, he'd all of a sudden stand up. He said, come on, Rob, bid me a good night, 8 o'clock, and he closed the door behind him. It's his house, you know, I don't mind doing that. But the more I went every Wednesday for 12 times, 12 weeks, I was getting better and I was learning stuff I never knew. And I was helping people in AA and doing book studies, which no one had heard of back in the day. And the last night there, he said, Rob, I have a message from God. I'm like, oh, God, wish you wouldn't say that. He said, you've been chosen as a prophet. And I'm like, okay, John. He said, you're going to go around the world and you're going to guarantee people can recover from alcoholism. And I said, John, I can't do that. If I go into AA and say, hey, I guarantee that they're going to kill me, you know, as big as I am, or they're going to kill me, John. But I did. And he said, tomorrow your life will change, Rob. And I think he says something like, in not long, you'll be taken far away from your home country. And then he says Isaiah 61. I don't know what that is. Nor did I look it up. Isaiah 61, I don't know. But the next day, I'm sweeping the floor and cleaning the house at Derek's house. And he comes home at lunchtime, which he never does. I'm like, Derek, what are you doing home? He said, hey, listen, the guy who sweeps the factory floor in our factory has resigned. Do you want a part-time job? And I'm like, hell yeah. So I popped in the car and went back. And during that week, it turned to a full-time job because they all liked me and I was cracking job. I was just glad to have a job, man, sweeping the floor and cleaning the toilets. I was happy with that. Mm-hmm. And then we got our first pay packet about a week or 10 days in, which back in the day was cash stapled to an envelope. I went to the gas station, petrol station, and I bought John a little teddy bear and I got a card. And I remember the words to this day. Thank you, John, for introducing me to God, because he took the compulsion to drink away. And I'm walking back to his house and I'm so excited. I'm like, wait till you see this, John. Wait till I tell you what's happened, John. And I got to his door and I knocked on the door, there's no answer. And the curtains looked a bit grey, like the net curtains. And I was knocking and the woman on the right-hand side apartment came out. She said, can I help you? I said, yeah, John, has he moved or something? What's going on? She said, John, who? I said, John, the guy. Oh, I only work nights. I don't really see anybody. I said, okay. So I went to the left-hand door and knocked on his apartment. Big guy come to the door. What do you want? I said, where's John moved to? He said, John, who? I said, the guy next to you. What's wrong with you guys? No idea what you're talking about. I said, I've come here for 12 weeks. Listen, buddy or mate or whatever, that apartment is derelict. It used to have all yellow tape on it. If you were to open the door right now and walk in there, you'd fall down 2 or 3 flights and kill yourself. Now shut up and good night, slam the door. And I'm like, what's wrong with these guys? I know I've got the right place. Mm-hmm. Been here 12 times before. So I went back to the meeting the next night where I'd met John. And I went in, the chairman recognized me. I'm like, Rob, good to see you. And I was like, thank God for that. I thought I was going insane. Mm-hmm. And I said, does John still come here? And he said, John who? And I said, the guy I was over near the coffee machine speaking to. And he went, "Oh my God, Rob, we thought you were praying. You were talking to yourself. We've never found that man. And
Mhm.
when I got wealthy, I put the best private detective in Manchester, could never trace that man. But
Really?
everything he says and everything he taught me is what I do today. And that's the reason we have a 98% success rate. And it took
Wow.
me 15 years to tell that story, John, because I knew.
Mm.
But it's funny because when I share it on podcast, I get text of, "Oh my God, that happened to me, Dr. Rob. Let me tell you my story." And it was more common than I thought it was because I thought it was just me. But
Mhm.
no, and all my life I've been succeeding because him I think is beside me now, and my uncle oh God, what's Uncle Bob is here as well. But yeah, that's how my life's been. It's just been everything I've done has worked out pretty good for other
No, I'm
people
glad.
and me, you know.
No, I'm glad. I believe everybody or anybody or anything comes into our life for a reason. I
Yeah.
still believe that to this day, and I have a couple good friends. I actually have a really close friend that lives in San Antonio, and I met her when as a photographer. I was a bodybuilding fitness photographer actually for a couple magazines that you probably knew growing up, Muscle Mag and Oxygen
Oh
magazine.
yes.
And I used to photograph for them, and she actually came to be a model for me one time we shot, and that was back in, I think, 2001 or something like that, 2000, and we're still great friends today. We still send Christmas cards back to each other, to each other families and that. So, I mean, I do believe people come to your life for a reason, and, maybe that was your reason. Maybe John came to your life for a reason.
Yeah. 100%. Yeah. Definitely.
So, what is that when you were basically from then on, you basically became sober or
Yes. There's been a couple of relapses during them 30 years, but I'd like to be open about them. Uh, but yeah, I mean, a few months later, I'm working at the factory, happy, and I'm on the internet. So the internet's first come out. There's these Christian chat rooms. Now I'm into God, of course. So in these chat rooms, I meet a girl called Sue, and we go through my story and her story, and she goes to this church in Plano that she goes to. It's a mega church, and convinces the head pastor there to invite me over to work with the youth ministry on crack cocaine problems in Plano. And that's what I did. And there was crazy things that led up to the flight. My passport was expired, and you have to wait 6 weeks for a passport. Mine coming 3 days, and all this God stuff around me. Uh, that's how I came to come over here. But in DFW, when we landed, uh, it was down the stairs and walking across, when my foot hit the floor, and I was only going for 2 or 3 weeks, and my foot hit the floor, and you was never going to go back home to live.
mm,
And so when I met this Sue, we're chatting, and because I was staying at her house for 3 weeks, and she said, "Tomorrow, it's weird. I've been unemployed for 7 months, but tomorrow I have to interview with this architect company. Will you come with me? I'll drive you around. I'm excited to drive in America." Drove around. I'm in shorts, t-shirt, some stains from last night's curry or something. She goes in. 2 minutes later, she comes out. "He wants to see you." I said, "Who wants to see me?" "The guy, the boss here." I said, "I'm not going in like this. He wants to see you." So I parked the car, went in, and he said, "Oh my God, we've been waiting for you." So I said, "Well, I had to park the car." He said, "No, no, no, we've been waiting for you." And he goes on to tell about his group and would I come there and speak? And I said, "Yes, I would." Sue got the job. And as I'm walking out, I turn around and go, "Oh, by the way, Hardy, what's the group called?" And he said, "We call ourselves Isaiah 61. Same as John told me all them years before. It's
yep,
crazy. My journey's been
it
like that
is.
all the time.
Yep. This everything comes back in circle.
Yep.
And
100%.
I find that everything like music, anything you can think of. I mean, nowadays we hear 80s music all over the place now because it's now a big thing again. Everything that's gone has come back. So I believe that, like you said, that John was meant to come into your life. And when he mentioned that whole Isaiah
Isaiah
verse,
61. Yeah.
like you
Yeah.
said, it came right back to you again later on. So everything comes back.
Yeah.
So, um, all the stuff that we've talked about today and that you wrote a book
Yes.
and is basically it's your whole life story or
Yeah. I always keep it here because I'm proud of it. It's called Daddy, Daddy, Please Stop Drinking. So here's
yeah,
another weird thing. That's my daughter.
okay,
It's me. So we wrote the book for healing purposes for me, and I would spout to my wife, stuff I remember. Even like driving down the road, she'd note it. About a year, 2 years later, she said, "Your book's finished." I'm like, brilliant, got the manuscript. Didn't have a title for it though. So one morning, so I had a concierge doctor, which basically means that if the techs go, I need to be at the private airfield, the FBO, within an hour to get on a plane to go over and see the patient. That's part of the contract. Bing, 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning. I get the phone, John, and I'm like, and it's my daughter, Charlotte. And she says, "Hey, Dad," after 30 years. She called me Dad. I think it's time. I'm sick of hearing all the bad stories about you. I've just seen you on TV. I want to see you, and I've got something to show you. So me and my wife are crying. So we're on a plane within an hour. We have people around us. Get over there, stay in a hotel overnight, go to the house next morning. I'm crying, I'm shaking. I can't knock on the door. I'm embarrassed. And she opened the door, and unexpectedly we hugged and we cried for what seemed like an hour, probably a minute, if that. And she took me by my hand and she walked me into her front living room. And she handed me my 3-month-old granddaughter. And it was right there and then I knew, God, if you need to kill me now, I'm pretty good with this, man. She said she wanted to go back to school, so we sent her back to school. And she's my lead therapist in my Manchester office. And then a few months ago, my younger daughter got in contact with me. So now I get to see my granddaughter most days. I travel over there 3 or 4 times a year. Me and Charlie work together. I mean, like you just said before, John, it all comes back around again.
It is. No, that's a beautiful story. I'm glad. I have a grandson myself. He's about 14 months now, and it does change perspective on a lot of stuff.
Yes, it really does. It's like, and I didn't understand how important family is.
Yeah.
Because there was a part of me healed. And I was over alone in San Antonio, and I brought my sister over about 2 years ago to run the restaurant. And having family here, it's a game changer, man. So listen, if you're listening to this, guys, and you're pissed off with your brother or your mom or your dad, and you're not speaking to them, you're not going to, you need to make that freaking call. Because I'm guaranteeing you, should anything happen and they pass away, you'll regret not making that call. Man, life's too short, I'm telling you. I'm sure I got in bed last night, I was 22. I got this morning, I'm 65. That's how quick it goes. You hear moms all the time, 1 minute I'm waving off to kindergarten, the next minute I'm waving off to college. Take notice of that saying. We ain't on this earth. So are you going to sit there back at home doing nothing with your life, or too scared because somebody said something bad, or, working on past behavior? I'll never be good enough. I never tried for that. Stop that shit, guys. If the rule of the Bible and what people say in the health industry, 75-ish is the age where people die. I have 10 birthdays left. I have 10 Thanksgivings left. You think I'm going to sit on my ass and wait for that shit to happen? No. That's because what I would hate for everybody listening to this is I'd hate you to get the age 60, 70, 80. Look back on your late teens, 20s, and 30s and realize there was never anybody watching you, and you really could have done anything you wanted to do.
No, very great message. And I believe that totally. When you're younger, you're a teenager, you're like, oh, I can't wait till I graduate. I'm tired of having to live by other people's rules and that. You get in your 20s and you're like, okay, now I'm going to do my thing, and everything's going so slow. And like you said, now that I'm older, time goes by fast, and it's hard to believe that what happened when I was 40 or 30 and how fast it went. So I totally believe that, as you say. So great message. And I hope everybody goes that. I know I talked to you earlier. I want to get a copy of your book there too. So I actually looked it up, and I found it on Amazon. Here in Canada, we have Amazon.ca, and I actually found it right there on Amazon.ca, and I'm sure you can get it on Amazon.com too. Very, very well. I'm definitely going to get it because then they can learn a lot more than what we can go into in an hour seminar here. So I hope a lot of them will reach out to you. Tell us a little bit more about you now. Like, you're in a happier state now. You're not just wealthy monetary wise, but just, I think, at peace, and you're more wealthy emotionally and spiritually. Why don't you give us a little bit background now of where you are now and the businesses you have going, and let's let everybody know how they can maybe reach out to you if they need to?
So I have 4 businesses. I have this practice. I have what's called BreathBox, which is dimensional breathwork therapy, which is software that we have. I have the restaurant next door, and we have a nonprofit, and we have a production company that sees over all my films and talking stuff, TV stuff. So yeah, we got a lot of things going on. Uh, we just want to help people, you know. I mean, life is amazing once you find out your identity. Because there's a couple of things I found out. First of all, I have one thing that not very few people have in this world, and that is enough. I have enough, not just monetary. I have enough. So it puts me in a position monetary to help people, as many people as I can. So we're over 11,000 people now as patients. Over the 30 years I've been doing this, 20 over here, and it's just I want to get as many people as possible well. So we have I've been here, we're just doing some work on early Alzheimer's, where patients have been there for years and years trying to find out, spent millions of dollars, and they come in within 3 months, we're seeing a 12% increase in short-term memory. That's the stuff I'm into today. If somebody comes with an illness that they don't know about, so it used to be alcohol and drugs 100%. Now, alcohol and drugs is 10% of our business, and the rest is mindset. We work with podcasters, business guys, alcoholics, anybody who wants to grow and change the world. That's how we work. The restaurant, pure English food, shipped over from England. The real deal. People laughed at me. I'm in Texas, remember? So I'm going to open an English tea. No, this is stupid. You're in Tex-Mex country, man. If you're not eating American, you're eating Mex. What's wrong with you? They laughed at me, John. They laughed at me.
Yeah.
We're the second most profitable restaurant in San Antonio today because of this. We had no experience. We had no experience. My sister had no experience. None of us had any experience. The waitresses, the British waitresses, no experience. The first day was crazy. There was food going out cold. There was food not going. And everybody was sat there just going, hey, man, I don't care. I'm just glad to be here. Thank you for opening. And as the 2 years now it's been, as the years go by, obviously, we kind of know what we're doing now. But yeah, man, if you're in America, guys, I'll send you this free of charge. I'll sign it for you. Just let me know your name, either John or myself. I got 10 copies of something to give away. So I'll pay for everything, shipping, everything, on one condition, that you pass it on to somebody else free of charge when you finish with it. That's all we ask. That book's been out 4 years now, John. And apart from people I don't know, I've never, ever charged for a copy of my book. We've given away about 4,000 books so far. So if you're an American, you're hearing this, please don't buy it off Amazon. Let me gift you this book. It'll be my absolute pleasure.
No, I think that's remarkable. I mean, I actually have, like I said, my friend that lives in San Antonio. I can always get her to cover one up for me, and maybe I can get you to personally sign it, and then 100%. I'll get her to ship it off to me. And because I definitely want to read your book. I don't know if you can see it behind me here, where my thumb is here. All those books are from past guests, because I want to support you guys. Plus, I want to learn more about your story. There's only so much we can go in an hour here, and I want to learn more about your stories. And you guys touch my heart. I mean, you guys, I thank you for coming on here myself, because you're coming on here, you're being humbled, you're being vulnerable, you're telling stories that are personal to you. But sometimes when we talk, I'm sure there was some stuff that you talked about today that maybe you haven't told to other people in the past, because you never thought of it until now. And that's the remarkable thing about something like this is my goal is, if we can touch one person and help one person that either is going through what you went through or knows somebody going through what you went through, maybe we can help in one way or another. And that's why I do this. I don't get paid to do this right now. There's no monetary coming. I don't have a monetization for this podcast or anything like that. I do this because of the love and meeting you guys, because I learned so much from you guys, and I'm humbled. So I want to thank you for being a guest on here today. Do you have any last words you'd like to put out there for our guests if they're listening right now?
Well, yeah, believe in yourself, believe in that everything can change. The brain is not hardwired. You can literally mind over matter. You can train the mind with what we teach you over the brain. The mind will change the brain, which will change everything about you, where you can go on and change the world. It's literally that easy. I want to put this in while the tape's rolling, because it's very important to me that I tell good podcasters what's going on. So I'm probably the highest paid doctor in Texas. That sounds crazy from a guy. But we turn down 15, 16, 17 podcasts a month because I'm too busy. And Courtney goes out. She finds a handful of people that are changing the world. And that's you, John. And we come to you humbly and say, can we come on your show? And most people don't research me. So I get questions like, have you ever been on a podcast before? And we go, yeah, I've been on a couple, you know. So thank you, man. Talk about saving lives with this shit that you're doing. Thank you for what you do, man. You've humbled me today. You're a beautiful guy. And I'm going to ship that over. I'll get Courtney to get your address. I don't care how much it costs. $100, that makes a difference. I'm going to bang it in the mail on Friday. So it'll be over to you. So absolute pleasure to meet you. And what a great show.
Oh, I appreciate the kind words. Thank you very much. I mean, the one thing I love about this podcast is we're not just going out and getting celebrities or things like that, which is nothing wrong with that. I'd interview a celebrity on this too who's went through problems because they go through too. But we like to get real people with real stories that's been in the trenches and they're trying to share their story because that's how people are going to learn. It's not just famous people. People are going through this all the time, and so I thank you for that kind words. There, thank you very much. And you're also one of those ones that are changing the world. If anybody wants to learn more about Dr. Rob and his businesses or his practice, or even just to get his book, make sure you go to robkelly.com. Rob is with two B's. I'll remind them that it's ROBB Kelly.com. And you can find all about his services there on there. Make sure maybe give a little plug, the address and the name of your restaurant if people want to go eat there.
Yeah, it's called the Old English Tea Shop in San Antonio. It's in Stone Oak. And if you ever visit there, guys, let me know because my offices are next door. We'll give you a tour of the office. We'll put you on some breath box, dimensional work. You're going to love it. And hey, if you're in San Antonio, hear this, I'll take you next door and feed you free of charge. How's that? I'll give you some good old fish and chips.
There you go. Where else can you get that? And you don't get better fish and chips than an Englishman. That's for sure.
Correct.
You guys know how to do the fish and chips. So I thank you for being on here. Everybody go to robkelly.com, find out more about him, find his book. And thank you again for coming on here. For anyone of you, I hope you come on back. We're back in service again here. We're ready to throw these podcasts out. Tell it to all your family and friends, butlersbabble.com, or just go to YouTube. You can go to youtube.com/@butlersbabble, and you can find them all on there too. Watch this episode, watch the past ones, and hopefully the future ones. And until next time, remember, if anybody asks, say the Butler did it.